So look. I know I've heard anybody say that in a long time. The problem is, right, I just want to keep them all. Oh, it's hot. It's hot. I should have put my bigger gloves on. I don't know if I want to keep this one. Jen, I love this yarn.
Keep that one then.
I might keep this one. We'll see. So as we put it back in the water, do you know what? I need my other gloves on. You know what I'm like with gloves? I don't like wearing gloves, but that is quite hot. I have a bit of a problem with pixie yarn because I just can't stop buying pixie yarns yarn.
With the garment knitting and all of that. Just put my first episode of the I've just
Pardon? She's got such a way with colour. I may have ordered a few more. Look, don't even. I just...
Welcome everybody to the Bakery Bears video show featuring another wonderful episode of My Perfect Socks.
Yes.
What a start to the year we're having with the knitting of these gorgeous socks.
Yeah.
And I'll be brutally honest with you, who doesn't love a perfect pair of socks?
Well, I can't think of anyone who doesn't.
I mean, if I would say...
They're such a treat, aren't they?
Or if you were going to talk to me about the thing which has changed my life most... Yes.
So it's not me?
Because I spent my whole time in bought socks. You know where you put, well, maybe you don't know, but you pull on a pair of socks and there was always that cotton hard line where it had been sealed on the end of the toe.
Oh, right, sealed.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it was...
The seams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And always at the end, there was always like an extra little bit at either end.
And either side, yeah. I mean, it depends on the quality of the sock, I suppose, doesn't it? It's that long, really, since I've worn bought socks like that. I wear bought socks for walking, walking socks, which are different, aren't they? But yeah. I can't remember the last time I put on a pair of socks that were sort of just normal socks.
So that always used to get me on the seams. But then also as well, they just never fit.
No, they never fit you at all.
And the amount of times, I'm not joking you folks, the amount of times I pulled on a pair of socks and literally went through the end.
And they tore,
yes.
Yeah.
It's just a joke. So socks, definitely, for all the times that when I talk about the jumpers, that's just a me personal thing that I enjoy knitting.
Like jumpers for your feet, aren't they, socks?
Well, it's better than a jumper for your feet, and this is me saying this too. Because a sock is something that you wear every single day. A jumper is not.
No, that's true.
You can wear...
Unless you lived in, I don't know. Hawaii.
Well, you probably couldn't wear socks.
No, I mean you'd wear a jumper every day if you lived in, I don't know, the Arctic.
Whereas socks, you literally can wear every day. I mean, it's the most phenomenal thing. So, what a wonderful series.
Yes.
Another great colourway. Two.
Well, yes, there's always two, isn't there?
Yes.
But yeah, it is a great colourway this time, the main one, and it's my favourite of the whole series. So
amazing.
Yeah, coming in early with the favourite.
Come on. Neil, speaking of knitwear, I've been wearing my socks and my jumpers.
You have.
And my gloves.
You have.
And my hat.
Because it's been freezing. And
now, of course, look,
dear me,
we hold our hand up to anyone who is in much colder.
Yes.
We realise that, we're very lucky to have viewers all over the world.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you we're going to have someone who's got it way colder and windier.
Absolutely. All you Canadians out there, I expect, and Northern America, on that.
Yeah.
That sort of
and
northern...
also Scandinavia.
Yes. Norway, Sweden, Finland, all those sorts of places. Yeah, way colder than us.
But...
we know that.
We had a storm the other day where literally... We were just talking to a neighbour just the other day and she phoned the police because tiles were flying off the top of a building and landing and she was worried that someone was going to get hit.
Just here,
Quite
it's taller than us.
Yeah. Just a nightmare.
They were falling off from a great height. Yeah. So, she rang the police and they came out and cordoned it off because if one of those fell on your head...
And then we were out walking the other day and a tree had come down on a house.
Oh my gosh. This tree must have been 300 years old. It was massive. And it had come down on a house. Yeah, and the tree surgeons were there, sorting it out.
I mean, it's funny because we did have a bad storm. Crumbs, when was it? Was it about 2019?
Yeah, I think it possibly was.
But it hit in the night.
It did.
And
it was November.
So because of that, you didn't see... There were definitely more trees down in that storm.
Yes, there were, than this one.
But in that storm, there wasn't tiles flying off buildings.
No, there wasn't. I didn't see any tiles flying off. And, it's terrifying, really. You just think, oh my gosh, our roof's going to go. We're all okay, thank goodness. Thankfully.
Yes.
But it's just a scary thing, and we were trying to just get on with work. And
it's a nightmare.
Earbuds in and all of that. It was impossible. It was just such a horribly stressful day.
It's the one type of weather I can't stand. No. I can cope with heavy rain, snow. I can even cope with, with intense warmth. When it gets really windy, I just find it unbelievably light.
But there's nothing you can do, is there?
No.
Not a thing you can do. So we just sort of stayed indoors and worked as best we could.
Have you found... Those of you who have iPhones out there, there's a setting which I'd never seen before, and it's where you can turn on ambient noise. So there's rainfall, there's rivers, there's the seaside, there's all sorts. It's really good.
You need to do that on my phone, you keep saying. Yeah.
I did it for our daughter Bryonys, although I don't know if she's used it yet, and maybe she won't ever, but she seemed to be quite keen that I did it. But it's in one of the settings, I can't remember exactly where, but you can turn on this thing where you can press a button.
Which one have you listened to?
I've had a stream.
Oh, nice, a babbling stream.
And I also went for a bit of rain. Which is funny because when it rains outside, I never particularly find that
never sounds
relaxing.
Like that, does it? It must have, no, it never sounds like that, yeah.
It's like Walt Disney rain.
Yeah.
With jumping Bambis and all sorts. Or the Bambi, no, let's not go there. Look, we have been getting warmed up, though, in front of the TV. Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. And we watched Superman.
Oh, gosh.
It's a movie that's come out recently by... It's the DC Studios, and I bought it on Apple, so I'm sure it's available anywhere.
It's basically like a sort of documentary, wasn't it?
About Christopher Reeve.
Just
amazing.
Oh, my gosh.
So amazing.
So amazing. I love him. You might know, long-term viewers might know how much I absolutely loved, I should say, Christopher Reeve. Especially as Superman. He is the only Superman. Can I just put that out there? I'm sorry.
You don't need to put it out there. It's fact.
All the other Supermen that have come following him, no. Just no.
Can I ask, have they remade Jaws? No.
Don't even suggest it.
It's just...
It'd all be CGI nonsense.
It's ludicrous.
No.
I mean, it really is ludicrous. When you make, a classic version of something, I mean, it actually comes back to a radio show which we put out just the other week. It's our first proper show of the year, and we were talking about how the TV has sort of, changed completely. And it's all about regurgitating the same things over and over again. It's like, what are they on to? They've had 4 or 5 different Supermans now. It's just insane.
No.
Write news stories,
people.
It's
just wrong. Just let it be.
But look,
it was perfection. Just leave it.
We watched Superman.
Yeah.
I say it like that because there's a little mark between the two, and it was literally the story of his life, and I mean, inspirational, unbelievably inspirational, but then really sad as well.
Just devastating what happened to him, just absolutely devastating. But also, it was uplifting and inspirational, like Dan says. So definitely worth a watch, but don't watch it if you're feeling sad or anything like that. Yeah.
It's getting really close to the start of our Valenvent.
Yes, it is.
2025.
It's very soon, isn't it?
This is an event that we started 3 years ago. I think it was 2022.
Right.
And it's all about showing our love for knitting.
Yes, indeed.
And it started with just a little sort of special event that took place in our Bakery Bears patrons' private Facebook group. Then in 2023, it was the Cherish Cowl.
Yeah.
And then in 2024, it was the Valen Scarf.
Valen Scarf.
Oh,
that
yes.
was a popular one, yeah.
And this year, it's the Love Story socks.
It's the Love Story socks, which I'm going to show you in what's off my needles. I will show you those finished.
And Kay actually just put out yesterday a special edition of her design diary.
Yes.
And she spoke all about the socks. But what was really interesting was, from me as a knitter, I don't know about you, there'll be loads of expert knitters out there who know all about the benefits of using, I don't want to say short row heel, because it's not a short row heel.
It's not a short row heel, no.
So
a heel other than a standard
Yes.
heel flap and turn, let's say.
And Kate goes into quite a lot of detail about when you would use something other than a standard, the ideal times. And you also spoke a lot about the fit of your butterfly heel.
Yeah.
And it was just super interesting. It's super interesting.
Thank you very much.
Whilst it was all about the love story socks, as is always the case in Kate's design diary, she goes very much into the sort of nitty gritty of why you do certain things and why you develop certain things.
Yeah.
So it's definitely worth a watch. But you're going to show them later, aren't you?
Yes, indeed. I will show you those in what's off my needles.
And then the Valenvent 2025 actually begins. Where's tomorrow?
Goodness, it is tomorrow.
It's the 1st of February.
1st of February.
Oh, yes. And it runs, Kate's course.
It's not a course.
Tutorial
it's like
series.
Yeah, it's
knit
just
along.
like a little video series to accompany
Community
it.
event.
Yeah.
Runs through until the 13th. But then
14th.
It finishes on the 13th.
Oh, right, but Valenvent runs from the 14th.
Yeah, it does,
Yeah,
it does.
yeah.
So, but the actual content that we're putting out with you finishes on the 13th. But then Jen is with us on the 18th with a lovely review, a Valenvent review, reviewing something lovely.
Right, okay, something Valentine's-y.
Something Valentine's-y.
Oh, that's nice.
Which will be marvellous. So the content keeps flowing.
Oh.
Look, too much lovely stuff to see today.
Indeedy.
So I think it's high time, because we're literally disappearing under yarn.
I have a little pile of yarn in front of me.
It's high time I say, Kate Jones, what's on your needles?
So, okay, the first thing today, this is, you see, I don't need to say this is a new cast on anymore. I'll just carry on saying it.
It's the cast-offs we count now.
Yeah, it's a new cast on. And I've started another of my folded hats. So I've finished the other one, and I'm going to show you that as well in what's off my needles. But I started another one. Now, the yarn I'm using is not actually the yarn that I originally originally thought I was going to use. What I'm doing with these hats, I showed you it last time, the one that I'm going to show you finished, is it was inspired by a hat that I created for our Advent last year, but I wanted to knit a thicker version. So this one is fingering weight held double, or DK you could substitute in. But because it was fingering weight held double, well, the reason I wanted to do it that way is because I wanted to use up some of the lovely skeins in my stash. And I've got more fingering weight than I've got DK weight. That's for absolute certain. So I thought, it'd be a great way to do that. So the first one was like a trial, really, but it actually came out beautiful. And you'll see that later. So I thought for the second one, I'm going to try variegated and hold that double and just see what happens. So I went for a skein that I bought, it's probably last year, I think. I feel like it was. It's from 3 by the Sea Designs. And it was one of their salty sock sets. So it's basically like a one of a kind. I think it's maybe when they're trialing colours and things like that. So it was a 75-25, but it did come with a mini. I've stolen the mini for my crochet squares. So it was a bright pink mini. So I've stolen that. But this was the colourway, and you can see it's split into 2. So it's this beautiful combination of pinks and reds and like a deep blue as well. Really, really pretty, but you can see it's not attached to a needle. I did start it holding it double, and when I hold things double that are variegated, I try to make sure that I'm not getting the same bit of it. Do you know what I mean? So the same colours didn't meet at the point. I made sure it was sort of offset, and I started knitting it, and I've only got this little bit, because I could see that it was doing a weird kind of, not pooling, I mean you can see it on the bit that's, I don't know if you can see it, but like here for example, it's really difficult. I'll show you the other side. Can you see how there's sort of like an area just of the blue there? And that kept happening as I was knitting. So I thought, right, okay, what I'll do is I'll cut the yarn one of the strands, reattach it, and that will interrupt what's happening there. And I did that, knit a couple of rounds, but all it did was it sort of moved it on a little bit, and it was still causing like little areas of that dark blue. So I think, I mean, you can see it sort of there, look, for example. And I just didn't think that would look very pretty in a hat. I thought by holding it double, what would happen is everything would get muddled up and it'd be like super pretty. And I think what I've learned actually from this is that I think I can use variegated, but I think it's got to be, I'm going to show you one actually in a little bit, it's got to be a variegated where all of the colours are kind of the same tone. Do you know what I mean? So that if you took a black and white photo of it, you wouldn't see a lot of dark and light. It would all look fairly similar in terms of the depth of colour. And I do have skein to show you as an example of that in a second. But yeah, I think when it's a variegated that's got very different colours like this, I think there's always going to be a risk that you're going to get those sort of areas that where the colour lumps together. All that being said, you know, if someone else knit this, it probably would knit up differently because we know everybody's gauge is different. We know all of that. But for me personally, with this one, I thought, no, let's not do that. Let's save this yarn for some beautiful socks. I think it will be fantastic. And choose something else.
It's all about choosing the right yarn for the right project.
Right yarn for right project, absolutely. Yeah. And I think they will make absolutely gorgeous socks. So I'm going to keep hold of those for that. So then I went back into my stash, and what I've actually chosen is knitting up so beautifully. So I chose a skein that was a gift actually from lovely Jen, from our editor Jen. She sent me this last year, I think, sometime. And I've not heard of the dyer. It's from Conversational Threads, and it's 100% extra fine superwash merino, and the colourway is hibiscus. And here's the colour. Oh, it's fabulous. So it's this gorgeous, I mean, look at that. Is that not beautiful? It's this gorgeous sort of purpley pinky colour. But because it's more of a tonal, it's just knitting up beautifully. And this is where I'm up to with the hat. So I'm powering through. So I've done the folded brim and I'm now well on to the body. With the other one that I'm going to show you later, I did like a sort of gathered decrease. And I think with this one, I'm going to try that decrease, the crown decrease, where you decrease on 4 points. I might give that one a go. I think it's a great, because I'm doing lots of these hats for gifts, I think it's a great way of me just working out which crown decreases I like the best, you know. It's a nice thing to be able to knit lots of them. They're all going to be beautiful gifts, and then ultimately I'll be able to decide which one I like the best. So we'll see what happens. But I just love it. I just love how it's knitting up. I mean, look at this colour. Look at that. Isn't that not beautiful?
It is.
The problem is, right, I just want to keep them all. I can't. You know, this one would look so lovely on my head though.
Would look nice with that top as well.
I know.
Yeah, it really goes.
I don't know if I want to keep this one. Jen, I love this yarn.
Keep that one then.
I might keep this one. We'll see. But I'm just really enjoying it. I'm knitting it exactly as I knit the first one with the cast on number. And I think this is a great sort of medium size. Hats are a funny thing for me, right? Because I don't like hats that are super sucky to my head. And I know some people do.
Like me, you mean?
You like super sucky hats, don't you? But I prefer a hat that is, you know, it fits on your head and it feels comfortable, but you don't feel like it's gripping on.
You don't like anything that grips, apart from leggings.
Do you like grippy leggings?
Yes.
So I think having this as the size medium, you know, it just depends on your head size, I guess. But I am going to work out a size small and a size large as well. And then, you know, the choice is there, because I think I will release this as a pattern at some point. You know, I've got some more work to do on it, but I just think it's such a lovely thing. You know, that folded brim, I love. It just looks so neat inside. Look how neat it looks inside. It's just so pretty. And I really love doing it. I love doing that pickup. I find it really fun. I love picking up stitches though. And it's just all knitting. It's all knitting. You know, apart from the decreases, you'll have to do a few knit two togethers or whatever. It's just all knitting. So it makes that perfect project, you know, perfect holiday project, perfect travelling, any of those sorts of situation where you just want to keep your hands busy, but you don't want to have to really think about it. I just really love it. So that's my folded hat. I shall keep you posted on the progress of how that's going, and, you know, when I figure things out. I cast this on only, I don't know, 3 days ago or something. And you just knit, and then you fold it and you attach it. And no, that's not the point though, is it? This year the point was I was going to have a bunch of these hats ready to give people at Christmas. So I've got to make sure I've got at least a few.
Yeah, that's true, but there's no point giving away something that, if it's going to be painful to give it away, then definitely don't.
Well, I've got some other yarns here that might be more painful for me to give away. So
Are those for hats?
Yes.
Oh no.
Yeah, I know, right. So I pulled out a few other skeins from my stash, and I think these ones will make beautiful hats. So I've got a Malabrigo Ultimate Sock, and this one is Azul Profundo. And would that not make the most beautiful hat? And that would be a nice man colour hat, wouldn't it? Because I'm trying to do a variation. I'm trying not to do just all pretty lady colours. So Malabrigo, either normal sock or ultimate sock would be brilliant. Cascade Heritage would be fantastic. You know, they're very solid. This is more tonal, but they would also be great. I've got a couple of skeins of Bird Street yarn, actually. I've got this one, and then I've got another colour which is sort of like a mauvey pinky colour. But this one is moss, and this was a possibility that I was going to use this for my advent design, and I didn't. But now I've got a skein of this I could use for a hat, and this will be beautiful, I think, for a hat. So that's Bird Street yarn. They do gorgeous tonals. I've got one that I dyed actually here recently, and I can't remember for the life of me why I dyed this. I know. I don't know why I dyed this. I sometimes think, oh, I want to dye that particular colour for this, and then I'll dye it, and then I'll put it up on my shelf, and then I can't remember why I dyed it. But I wanted a sort of neutrally, slightly blue-toned grey with some speckles, so I dyed this one, which I think is beautiful, isn't it? That would make a great hat, and that could be unisex. That's male or female, I would say. And then I've got, well, you see, this is where my problem lies, right? Because I have a bit of a problem with pixie yarn. And when I say that, it's a positive thing.
Positive for her.
It's positive for Sophie, because I just can't stop buying Pixie Yarn's yarn. And I've got these ones. Oh my gosh. I mean, look at this red. This one's called Soulmate. Oh. You see, this is very tonal, but I think it'd be okay. I think it would be all right doubled. I mean, look at that. And then I've got a green, which is Forest. Oh, look at that. Just beautiful. I've got a pink. This one is Bryonys. This one is quite tonal, but again, I think it would be okay doubled. And then I've got this one, and this is an example of a variegated, as I said before, that I think would work. I'm not going to use this for a hat. I've got this for something really special that I might have cast on next time, but we'll see. Ooh. But this one from Pixie Yarn, oh, I just love this so much. It's called Hodgepodge, which is that not the greatest name ever? But look at it. Can you see how it is variegated? But when you look at it, all of the colours are kind of the same tone, aren't they? Kind of the same depth. So I think this kind of a variegated would work really well. But like I say, this is for something else that I really hope I can get on the needles for next time. I mean, look at it. Oh, it's just absolutely heavenly. It's beautiful. She's got such a way with colour. I may have ordered a few more. Look, don't even. I can't even go and look on a website anymore because it's just too much for me. I can't deal with the prettiness. So yeah, that's my folded hat. Absolutely loving it. Dan Jones?
Yes.
What's on your needles?
Well, I really am being inspired by this section of colour work.
Oh, that looks really good.
I mean, now look, the history of this is it's the Sweetheart Cowl which Kay designed for me a few years ago now,
Yeah,
actually.
it is a few years ago.
And it was to sort of push my colourwork knitting and, to keep the skills up, fingering weight and all that jazz. And this particular section on the first one that I knitted didn't come out too well. It came out really puckered, and you know how you can tell when you do colourwork knitting, you can tell the difference between a section, because if you look at the general knitting gauge, certainly between a sort of plain section and a colourwork section, and the gauge in the plain section will look all fine and will look like your knitting normally looks, and then you'll get into the colourwork section and it'll suddenly be like super gappy, and it goes out because you've been doing colourwork. And whilst I'm not saying this is perfect, it is so much better than what it was. And what I'm really thrilled about is that, when that happened before, I was frustrated. There's a return on that section when you get to the top. I, was definitely a tiny bit better then, but then I've knitted 2 further cowls since then, the Hadrian's cowl and the Winter at Pemberley. I've come back to this in the hope that I would be able to tackle this section and do it better. And the answer to that question is a definite yes. I struggle to see too much of a difference in the gauge between the plain knitting and there's a tiny bit, but I actually think that, when it's blocked, that will inevitably disappear a little bit more.
I think it's fabulous.
What I'm learning is, and I've never really got this before, because I don't tend to like to knit the same patterns twice. What I'm learning is that actually coming back to a pattern and doing it again is a really, really good idea, because you can do 2 things. You can perfect your skills because you've already knitted it once, so you're not like learning how to knit the pattern. You can focus solely on what the knitting is. But then even better than that, you can look at what you did before and you can see tangibly if you're better or worse than what you were before.
It's definitely loads better.
Yeah, it's in a different league
and,
to what it was.
when it's blocked as well.
Yeah. Well,
and I think doing it in 2 like really contrasting colours like that, it just looks fantastic.
Yeah, this is for our daughter Bryony.
It's going to be
she's
for
very
Bryony.
excited
She's
about
very
it,
excited,
which is very cool.
Because she thinks it looks sort of Halloweeny, which I think it does.
And it'll be ready about it.
Yeah, this middle section here has got like love hearts.
Yeah, it does. Yeah,
it's just going to be lovely.
Put some skulls in as well, and definitely Halloween.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really, really fun doing this, and I'm surprised at that. And it's made me wonder actually about. I don't think that. It's funny. I don't think I'd want to knit a Let Lopey jumper twice. Not because that I'm disagreeing with everything I've said here, but I think because there's so much plain knitting in those jumpers that it would feel like an element of a waste of my time, unless I really, really, really wanted a second one, or if I really wanted to knit one for someone else, of course. I think that what I'm talking about here is this knitting of something twice is when it's got in a lot of stuff and there's things going on, and you can definitely use it as a sort of improver, which is definitely what's happened here. And it's I'm stunned, to be honest, because I'm stupid really, because it's obvious that this would have happened, but I've always been adverse to knitting something twice, and now I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm totally doing the Hadrian's cowl again.
Yeah.
With 2 different, go different with the colours.
Yeah. But these 2 colours are just lovely, aren't they? I dyed this one. I did initially think I'd dyed this grey, right? but I don't think it's mine. I don't think I dyed this. I think this is Eden Cottage. So I apologise. You know, I did think at first I dyed it, but I don't think I have now. I think it's Eden Cottage because it's the same base that I dye on, and I just thought, oh yeah, I must have dyed that. I think it's Eden Cottage. But yeah, I definitely did the orangey pinky. I say pinky because there's tons of pink in it, but I know it reads as like a sort of clementine-y, tangerine-y colour.
Every year I produce a series all through the year. It's called the Self-Contained Knitter, and it's charting my garment knitting goals. But within that, I inevitably do touch on, you know, the things I'm using to improve my skills. So if you want to sort of join me for, you know, a real sort of delve deep into my thought processes with regards to the reasons why I do certain things, and also, you know, my goals with the garment knitting and all of that. I've just put my first episode of the Self-Contained Knitter out just on Tuesday, and the reason why I've actually mentioned it is I know a lot of you like to hear my book recommendations for the upcoming historical series. You certainly did last year. Last year was, of course, England and Castle Nation, and in the first episode of Self-Contained Knitter I went through a whole list of book recommendations.
Right.
And I know lots of people...
Oh, that's an added little
it is.
bookish element.
I've just done the same for Britain the Stately era. So that episode went out on Tuesday and you can watch it right now.
Cool.
What else is on your hook?
Ah, yes indeed.
Looks like a Christmas bag.
I know, I've been working away.
Is that a Christmas colour? If it
I
isn't,
can't
it should
remember.
be.
It should be.
You'll see it in a minute.
Yeah. I've been working away on my crochet squares, and I've put them into now a bigger bag because my bag just got too small. And I've finished using this one. I was using this one for Val and Vent, this one that I made. So I've put them into here, and even in here I don't think there's enough room. But for the moment it's okay. So look how many I've done now. Oh, look at them. Look at the fun colours. Don't they look lovely stacked up like that? So I'll count them, shall I? 16. I've done 16 squares now. I don't know how many I'd done when I last showed you, but it was nowhere near that, was it? So I'll whiz through these. So this blanket is going to be for Bryony for her new student flat room when she moves into that in September for her second year. Because she's getting a bigger room. It's, you know, it's lovely. And I thought, oh.
We're going round for tea.
Yeah, we've said so because she's got a little...
What do you mean little? None of it's little.
I know. The room she's moving into, she's a very lucky girl. It's like a little studio room. So she's got a little kitchen at one end. She's got a little table she can eat at.
And study at.
And no, she's got a desk as well.
She's got a dining table and a desk.
Yes, she does.
It's nicer than my house.
I know. So yeah, she's got a table she can eat at. She's then got a desk to work at. Obviously, you know, she's got a double bed, wardrobe, bathroom in there. The only thing is the bathroom is small. They all seem to be small in student accommodations from what we can gather.
Yeah.
But it's fine. You know, it's fine. Anyway, I thought it might be nice for her to have a beautiful new blanket on her bed. So I'm using all of the brightest yarns I could possibly find in my stash. And I've actually got the yarn I'm going to border them with. I'm going to show you that in a second. And I'm just doing granny squares. I'm holding the yarn double. So I'm using 20 gram minis and I'm holding them double. And I'm using a pink hook. I think it's 3.75 millimetre. It is, because I wanted to use this pink one. It's a Clover Amore, 3.75 millimetre. And it's lovely, you know, it's working up perfectly. And I'm doing they're just granny squares, but I use a method, and I've done a tutorial for it. I call it a perfectly square granny square, because I turn after each round, and I'm sure a lot of people do this. But if you don't turn after each round, it skews a little bit in the centre. It sort of twists, I find. So yeah, I turn after each round. So I've done a tutorial showing that. But these are all my squares. This one I just finished recently and it's lovely. Most of these yarns are from Somerset Yarns. And I don't know about this one actually. I'm not sure about that one. But this one I'm sure is. I mean, look at the colours. And they've all worked up really lovely. I've not really got any pooling that I can see. I mean, sometimes the camera picks it up and you can't see it with your naked eye. This one I love. Look at the colour of that one. Lovely purple, blue. I did think I would start joining these the other day, and I laid them all out, what I've got so far. And I couldn't really come up with a layout that I thought would work the best. And I think the problem is because I don't know what colours are going to be coming after I've finished this batch that's in my bag. I didn't want to, I didn't want to start joining them and then think, oh, that one should have gone there and that one should have gone there. So I think, oh, this one's beautiful. This one is Somerset Yarns. I can't remember the name of the colourway. Look at that. It's just beautiful. Oh, and a bright pink. Oh, yes. Oh, that's Barbie pink, isn't it? I've got a red. I did these ones at Christmas, actually. I've got a red and then a red and a green. And I think this one is, it must be Somerset Yarn, I think, but I don't know. I can't remember. I might be wrong. Very Christmassy. So that's all my squares. So yeah, I did lay them out and I thought, let's have a look. And what I've decided to do, I'm going to crochet them all before I decide on the layout, because I don't want to mess up the placement, because once you start joining, it's a bit of a faff, isn't it, to have to undo it all, because what I'm going to do is the join as you go method. I haven't decided yet, actually, what I might do. I haven't decided whether I'm just going to have effectively one round of the border colour. So basically you join using the border colour. Do you know what I mean? So that when it's joined, you'd see one from this square and one from this square. You know what I'm trying to say? Or whether I want it a bit wider. And if I would decide I want it a bit wider, then what I can do is I can put one round of the border colour around all of these in preparation. So I might do that, we'll see. But I've got all of these left to go at. I did buy, and let's see if I can identify them. I have crocheted a couple of them already, but I know that these three, I did buy a little mini set from Woolly Mama, and it's just beautiful. Two of them I've crocheted, but these are the other three. Look at those. Just lovely. So she's another lovely dyer that does bright, fun colours. And then this one, is it this one? I think this might be the one that I stole out of that set from 3 by the Sea. And then, whoops-a-daisy. And then I've just got a few others. This one is Somerset Yarns, look. And it's Bikini, look at that one. And then I've just got a few more sort of solids in brights too. And because I've got a mixture of solids and variegateds, that's why I think I was struggling with the placement, because I don't want to end up with like just a bunch of like all solids at the bottom, and then not any variegateds, do you know what I mean? So I've got, this is the next one I'm going to do, look. Oh, look at that.
That's very pink.
So what I do is I wind it into, I just wind the whole 20 gram mini, and then I split it into 2 10 grams. I don't pull from the middle, because I know I've wound this by hand, but if you wound it on a ball winder, you could pull from the middle and from the outside. I don't do that because I never like pulling from the inside of a ball, because I feel like it adds an extra twist. If you ever just have a look, I can't find the centre of this one, but just grab yourself a cake of yarn and just pull the yarn out from the centre, and what you will see is it sort of twists like this as you pull it out. So I just think it adds more twist into it, and I don't like to do that. So I wind the whole 20 gram mini and then I split it. And I've got one of those little weighing scales. It's like a scientific measure, I think. I just got this on Amazon years ago. So I really recommend one of these. It just uses a couple of batteries in the back. And I can't remember the last time I put batteries in. They seem to have lasted for ages. Really, really useful, I think, for knitters, these. So, yeah, it's my granny squares. I'm just carrying on. I'm thinking at the moment I might do it 6 by 8. So that'd be 48 squares, wouldn't it? And I've done 16. But I decided that I'm just going to join it with a bright white, because I think that will just set off all of the squares and it'll just look absolutely fabulous. So I've got Cascade Heritage. I've wound these 2. I bought 4. I don't know whether that's too many. I've absolutely no clue, because crochet does eat a lot of yarn, and particularly if I do decide to go all the way around once and then join it, then I will probably need quite a lot. But I've just wound 2 of them for now, and it's the bright white. Can you see how beautiful and white it is? They do another colour which I use a lot, and it's called Snow, but it's just off-white, and this time I wanted bright white, so it's colourway number 5682, and I think it's just called white. So that's going to be lovely, isn't it? And maybe I will do a thicker border in between now. I'm thinking that might be really nice now I've just been talking to you about it. But I've just been doing this whenever I fancy crocheting a square up. I'm not doing too much of it, you know, I'm not overdoing the crochet. And I would just like to have it done for September. So I've got plenty of time, haven't I? And I've got 16 there. So if I do 48, yeah, we'll just see how it goes. But I'm really, really enjoying it. It's just nice to do something a bit, you know, different, I guess. Yeah.
It's The Albion by Michelle Wong, and it is my sort of stepping stone to a Gansey. And I feel like that I'm definitely now at a point where I can probably, this year, you can buy kits, you can buy Gansey kits where you get everything.
Yeah.
You get the yarn, the needles,
Do you?
the pattern and everything, yeah. A viewer of Self-Contained Knitter actually told me about it, and I've definitely got it on email somewhere, but I might...
Is it from Flamborough or Filey or somewhere like that?
I can't remember. But I know she bought... I know it wasn't cheap,
No.
but I know she bought the kit, and that's how she knitted a Gansey, and it was brilliant.
Okay. With long double points?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Because, I mean, the reason why I say I think I'm probably at a point where I'm ready to do it is, well, I'm dealing with this fine. Everything's fine about it. It's the right size, which is cool, because I didn't swatch.
Lovely.
I just went for it, because I originally started with that other yarn that just didn't work. And everything's working fine with this. And, you know, I feel like I'm probably ready.
Yeah.
And the other reason is because...
It's a lovely colour, isn't it?
I really wish that... Yeah, it's a really, really lovely colour. I really wish that the pattern had changed.
Yeah, right, okay.
On the line. Look, Michelle Wong is the queen of making chic, gorgeous garments. So I know that when this is finished, it's going to look cool. So there's zero criticism of the pattern.
You do have a special birthday coming up this year.
Yes, yes. Can you believe it? They say, don't they, life begins at 40.
Oh, get on.
Well,
Get on, man. If you think you're going to be 40, you can...
I think we should have a vote. The vote should be...
it's an O number.
The vote should be, who's older?
Who's older? But Dan is having a big birthday in October, so that might be a nice present, actually.
Well, no, I know the nice present.
I know what your nice present is.
Look, ladies and gentlemen.
It's a very stressful purchase because I can't possibly get it wrong.
You talk about inspiration, right? And, you know, I became a drummer when I was very young. I was always drawn to rhythm. I think we all are, really.
I think it's an innate thing.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And thankfully, I was supported in that sort of drive. Became a drummer very young. Got my first drum kit, I think, when I was about 12. I remember getting it now. Set it up all wrong. My drum teacher came round and laughed and said, "What are you doing?" Set it up right. Everything was fine then. Loved that kit. And, you know, remember all the kits over the years. But when I was ill, thankfully we had a small insurance payout, and we were able to buy a drum kit which, you know, a positively dream-worthy drum kit. Only small, you know, a really sort of proper, old-fashioned, you know,
handmade,
50s.
beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It's gorgeous. And I'd quite like a snare drum to go with it.
He wants a snare drum, a matching snare drum. So it's
remember, it doesn't have to be matching.
No, but same maker.
Yes,
is what I mean.
Yes.
Yeah, same
A
maker.
snare drum. Currently, it's a bit like, you know, my drums are a Ferrari and my snare drum is a Ford Escort. So perfectly serviceable and gets you from A to B, but you look a bit of a silly Billy going out with. I suppose
You have had some nice snare drums in the past, though.
Yeah, none as nice as.
None as nice as this particular one.
Yeah, I did. I had a lovely snare drum.
I did find you've been looking around, haven't you, and seeing what's around, and I did find one because they're made from wood. Yeah, I found one. It was just the most beautiful drum, and it's this shade of it's got this band of turquoise blue.
Yeah.
And it's got all inlay.
They do a few like that. They do a full kit like that.
Yeah, you're not having a full kit.
I don't want a full kit. I have a full kit and it's gorgeous.
You've got a full kit, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so anyway, the reason why I mentioned it actually was that I bought my brother, I'm teaching. Brother Dom does all the music, teaching
Brother
drums.
Dom. Made it sound religious.
Brother Dom. And I got him the transcriptions of all of John Bonham's drum parts from Led Zeppelin. I've never read anything so inspirational in all my life. It is the most... Imagine the thing that you love doing the most, and imagine that you went and got something about that, and you started reading it, and it made you better just through reading these little bits, but then also made you realise never ever could you ever dream to be as good as this person was.
I don't know, right? Dan was playing the other night. He always does practice every night, and I came out of the shower, and I was like, what is he playing? John
Bonham drum parts.
I was like, what is that? So I was literally stood there watching, because if he knows I'm watching, he'll be So I was peeking around the corner watching. It was amazing. It was amazing. I told you it was amazing.
It's the drums to Stairway to Heaven. So if you go from 4 minutes on in the track Stairway to Heaven, and it's as it builds and builds and builds, and you would think listening to it was quite simple, but actually it's not. It's really complex.
It was really complicated. And cool. All I can hear is the drums. I can't hear the music because Dan's got headphones on. So I was just hearing the drums. So I didn't know what the song was.
Oh, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. I loved it. But yes, Albion.
Anyway.
Cascade 220.
Yes.
Colour is exceptional.
Midnight Heather.
I'm feeling very much inspired now by this.
Did you say Cascade Heritage?
Cascade 220, I said. Okay. Cascade 220.
Yes.
I would never, Have you met me? How could I possibly have pulled that from
I don't know. Mid-air? It's because I just said it. Here it is.
The colour is blue, but you can see flecks beautiful. Of green in it. It's completely spectacular. And great project. But I must admit, I am sort of looking forward to having a bit more of a knit on my little now.
Right, okay. It's like that, is it? So the last thing on my needles is Bryonys socks that I started last time. I finished one, I'm on to the second. And I want to get these done fairly quickly because I want to give them to her for Valentine's Day. So I want to get them done for then. But I'll do that. I'll do that fine. So this yarn that I'm using, it's self-striping and it's from Fab Funky Fibres and it's Star Trek themed. It's called Space, the Final Frontier. So cool. And I've finished a sock and here it is. Look how fun this sock is. I love the colours. I don't think they're remotely spacey. But I don't care, I think they're absolutely lovely. I think it's very spring-like, isn't it? Just beautiful. So this contrast came with it. It's not even a contrast, it's a matching mini, I should say. This came with it. And what I did, I've used my butterfly heel, which we mentioned a little bit, didn't we, at the beginning. So this is a mock short row heel. It's not short rows, it uses decreases and increases, and you knit it flat whilst you're knitting the sock. I absolutely love it. So what I did was I knit the leg down to the purple stripe. I knit the purple stripe and then I added the heel and then carried on. I think it looks cool. I really like it. So it's just 64 stitches, plain sock. I've done quite a long leg on this only because I wanted to get to the next purple stripe. So I just kept going until I'd knitted that. And I think I've got a little book. I keep a little book for all of us, for each of us, for sock knitting. 55 rounds on the leg, so it is a nice long leg. And she does like longer socks. She likes a variation. She sometimes likes longer socks when it's a bit cooler. And then in the summer, she likes shorter ones. So, yeah, these will be lovely. But it's a nice lightweight yarn. And I'm giving these to her in February. It's still cold, isn't it? So she will definitely be wearing these. But I just think it's lovely. So I've got the second one on the go. And I'm doing quite well. So this is how far I am with the second. They will be matching because it was 2 50-gram skeins that I had, 2 matching. And what I'm doing, I counted how many stripes I'd done on this. Added the heel and the toe as an extra 2 days, and then divided it to make sure that I'm going to finish it in time for Valentine's. So I'm doing 2 stripes a day, and it'll be done within a few days of Valentine's, so that's absolutely fine. So 2 stripes a day, and do you know what, right? Normally when I knit socks and I break it down like that, I do X number of rounds per day, 10 rounds, 15 rounds, whatever. But I'm finding by just telling myself I've only got to do 2 stripes and I'm not counting the rounds at this point, it seems to be going much quicker. I quite like that, you know, and I thought, I might start down a stripy pair and just do 2 stripes a day and see how quickly it goes. Oh, I'm sorry.
It's an artistic approach rather than a numbers-driven approach.
I've got this skein here that I thought would be really nice for socks for Dan. A self-striping. I got this one. It's one of the Freckled Whimsy Halloween Club yarns. I've torn the band somehow there. And this one was for December last year. And it was called Enter If You Dare. But look at that. I think that would make fantastic socks for Dan. So I might do that. I might just cast these on and just do 2 stripes a day. Because, you know, I'll cast a sock on and I'll tell myself I've got to finish the rib that day. And sometimes that's a bit of a slog for me because I have so many different things I have to knit in a day that it might not sound a lot, you know, knitting a rib in a day. But when you add that to other things, it feels like, but 2 stripes, that's all right. That feels okay. So yeah, I might cast these on as well. My problem is I just want to cast loads of things on and you've got to finish stuff, haven't you? So second sock on the needles, and this will be done for next time.
Wonderful.
Lovely, lovely.
It's a gorgeous sock, and whilst it might not look spacey, I think what it looks like
lovely
is 60s.
It does look 60s, you're right.
And that's when Star Trek...
I love it. I think it's lovely. And I can't wait actually to finish them because I'm going to put some of the yarn into my scrappy stripy scarf, which I'm going to show you on the next show.
Right.
Yeah.
And I had no idea actually that the initial plan with Star Trek was for Pike to be the captain.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah, the original crew.
Pike, right.
Yeah. So what you're seeing now in Strange New Worlds, that was the original plan for what was going to happen. And I don't know the full ins and outs, but I read an article, and if I was 10 years younger, I'd remember more of the article. But all I know
well, you are only 40, darling. So.
Well, no, 39. What I know is that his wife had something to do with him leaving the show.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Right.
I think she was very much in control of his career, the guy who played...
And she didn't want him doing it?
I think she fell out with Gene Roddenberry. Ah. And that's why then he was filtered out and in came Kirk, and then the rest is history.
The rest is history.
I mean, you know, but it's such a sort of funny thing because it wasn't popular.
No, was it not when it first came out?
The TV show was never popular.
Was it not?
No. Right. And the first film didn't do that well.
You can understand actually why it wasn't popular. The first film is a bit dodgy, isn't it?
Yes, that's where I think they're finding their feet.
Is that the one with the lady with no hair and the Vija?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a bit odd, that one.
Yeah. It's a weird film. But, you know, it then becomes just stupendous. I mean, to be fair, I think what it was was that the idea was ahead of its time.
Yeah, probably.
I think he was a real genius, because if you think that he was making this before Star Wars, and the types of stories he's telling in the 60s really would transfer to today.
Yeah.
So unbelievably ahead of its time.
I suppose now it's more of a sort of iconic, classic, very... not nerdish. That's an insulting word to use,
not nerdish
because
at all. I mean,
we absolutely love it. And one of my favourite films ever is The Voyage Home.
Well,
just of any film.
And mine too.
I love it.
Everything about it's brilliant. The music,
is
everything's
brilliant.
The acting's superb.
Yes.
But
happy ending, brilliant.
We had a conversation a little while ago, Kay and Bryony and I, and we were talking about if we could be in any of the sort of fantasy worlds of either Star Wars or Star Trek, where we go. We all said Star Trek.
Yeah.
Without any shadow of a doubt.
Yeah,
because it is
absolutely.
It's such a brilliant idea
They have such cool things.
Well, they have such cool things, but also it's a brilliant idea for where the world could go. And, it'd be wonderful if we could get there. Yeah. Look, who's ready for some more yarn
Who's
dye?
ready?
I know I am, and thankfully Kay is too.
Yes.
Yes, she's back with a brand new instalment of a spectacular sequel to my favourite blanket. This is My Perfect Socks.
It's a brand new year, so it's time for a new challenge. I want to knit myself the perfect pair of socks. To do that, I'm going to need yarn, and lots of it. The inspiration will be one of my favourite films. So together, let's create my perfect socks. Welcome back, everybody, to My Perfect Socks. So yes, we're on the 3rd episode already. Can you believe it? Number 3 already. So we've got our socks on the go, and today I'm going to complete the leg. So first of all, I just want to say thank you all so much for all your positive comments and for everyone who's casted on their own pair of perfect socks. It's just been so lovely to see all your different versions of all your socks, and lots of people are sort of going into their stash to find a yarn that sort of matches the yarn that I dye up, which I think is really fun. So yeah, we're on to number 3 today. So I need to tell you what the colourway name is. Now, first of all, I'll actually say that this colour is my favourite of all 12 that we're going to be dyeing in this series. And I did think, maybe I should save the favourite until last. But the thing is, it fits in the sequence of colours of how I've planned out the sock, how it's going to look. So I'm just going to do it now, why not? So yeah, this is my absolute favourite. And funnily, actually, as I've said before, I dyed a whole 24 advent calendar for myself last year based on You've Got Mail, and sent it to 2 friends. And they've both come back to me and said that this particular colourway is their favourite as well. It's actually, now what part of the film is it? How far through? Maybe the middle of the film, I would guess that this is from. And it's called Storybook Lady. So if you know the film, you'll know the scene. And it's where Tom Hanks, Joe Fox, as he is in the film, he's taking care of his brother and his aunt. I know that sounds ridiculous, but these are both small children, his brother and his aunt. It's all explained in the film. And they're sort of having a day out, and it must be close to Halloween, I think, because it looks very autumnal. And they're walking past the bookshop, and he's saying to the children, I think, oh, what do you want to do now? Do you want to catch a film maybe at the cinema? And the little girl says, oh, look, the Storybook lady's here, let's go in. So they walk past the shop around the corner, and the Storybook lady is reading a story, and they go in and the children sit down and listen. So yeah, it's that whole scene that we are trying to capture today in yarn. So yeah, it's time now to just have a cozy up in my little corner and just tell you a bit more about the inspiration, how I came up with the colours, where the colours came from within the scene, and all that goodness. Okay, so I'm all cozied up in my little reading nook, just ready to tell you about the kind of specific things that inspired today's colourway. So yeah, it's Storybook Lady, and as I've just said, it's based on that scene in the film when Meg Ryan is reading a story to all the children in the bookshop. And the book actually that she's reading from, it's a Roald Dahl book, and it's called Boy, Tales of Childhood. It's not one I'd actually heard of. I think it's like a semi-autobiographical novel. So that's the one that she's reading from. So I think the fact that it was a Roald Dahl book just put sort of images into my head, because his books are just like fantastical, aren't they? And quite magical. And in that scene, what I've taken the colours from actually is the books that I've been inspired by, because she's sat in that corner and it's a children's bookstore, so inevitably there's lots of sort of spines of the books are really bright colours. So that's the area that I've focused on. It's, brightly coloured children's books is where I've taken the colours from. I could have gone lots of different ways, because I've tried not to. I don't think I have in any of the colourways actually been inspired necessarily by what she wears, because she doesn't really wear colours that jump out at me. All of her clothes are quite sort of classic and pretty, but colour-wise, not really that much to sort of go at. Well, no, yeah, that is right. I didn't want to give away something for a later colour, but yeah, no, that is right. So yeah, I've gone for the books themselves, so brightly coloured children's books. So to do that, what I thought I would do in terms of dye method, I've used a method that actually produced one of my favourite colourways of when I used to dye and sell yarn, which is some years ago now. But I did a colourway called Fairy Garden, and it was so beautiful. I've made one of my design pairs of socks, actually, I knit in Fairy Garden. I think it was the Jemima socks, which was part of my Beatrix Potter, one of my Beatrix Potter clubs. And the colour is like, the Fairy Garden colour is very different to this one we're doing today. But the Fairy Garden is quite soft, and it's quite sort of Monet-like in terms of the colours. But the method that I use for that, and I find that this works no matter what particular shades of each of the colours you use, is that if you take primary colours and use those, what happens is those primary colours inevitably merge and make the secondary colours. So we're going to be using a blue, a yellow, and not a red. I've gone for a pink. So I've replaced red with pink as my primary colour, if you like. So I've chosen 3 shades of those colours, which are probably, are they the brightest shades that you could get? Without using neon dyes, then probably, they're very bright shades. And I'm going to be dyeing it in a different way to Fairy Garden. Although I've used that as like an inspiration for the types of colours I'm going to use, the method of dyeing is completely different to Fairy Garden. We're going for a much more concentrated, kind of fast and a bit fun method. Fairy Garden is a bit more involved. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to use some bright colours. We're going to produce a colourway that reflects, brightly coloured children's books of Meg Ryan, Kathleen, in the film sat reading to the children. So that's information, that's a full information on the colour that we're going to be dyeing up today. Oh, and of course, I'm going to be dyeing up that coordinated mini as well. I don't know what colour that's going to be at the minute. I'm just going to wait until I've dyed the main skein and then I'll decide at that point. But it's definitely going to be something bright and fun, which is very different, I think, to the other two that we've done before. So that's exciting too. So yeah, it's time now to have a look at all of the equipment and everything we're going to need to dye our beautiful yarn. Okay, so here is everything that we're going to need each time we dye our yarns. So first of all, I've got my saucepans that we dye in. These are stainless steel. I've used, if you've watched me before, you've seen me use these many times. But yeah, it's a stainless steel pan. I like the ones that have two handles because they're nice and easy to move around when they've got heavy water in. I'm going to use two pans this time because we're dyeing two different colorways each time. So I will say this right at the very beginning. All of your equipment that you use for dyeing, you must only ever use it for dyeing. Don't use it for anything else because the dye powders are toxic. Okay, so pack it all in a box, keep it in your garage, whatever, that's what I do, and then just bring it out to dye your yarns. So two pans, and these are, I think these are classed as like casserole pans in this country. I'm not sure exactly what size they are. I haven't ever measured them, but it's that big. Just a nice big roomy stainless steel saucepan. You want something that's not going to stain. We then need our citric acid. So citric acid is our mordant. The mordant is the sort of chemical, if you like, that makes the dye permanently stick to the yarn. So in my case, I'm going to use citric acid, which I would say is the most common way these days that dyers get their mordant. Some dyers use vinegar. People like Malabrigo, Madeline Tosh, their yarns always smell vinegary when you get them. That's because they use vinegar instead of citric acid. But citric acid is easy to get. It's a food safe product. It's basically the stuff that goes into fizzy sweets if you ever eat fizzy sweets. So we've then got some gloves. I've got some thicker rubber gloves which are more heat proof, and then I've just got these thin sort of surgical gloves. I prefer these when I'm actually dyeing because I can feel things better than the thicker gloves, but I use these ones when I'm sort of in the water when it's a bit hot. I've got a mask, of course. You must always, always, always use a mask when you are dyeing your yarns. I've got my big mixing spoon. Where would I be without my big mixing spoon? And a jug. This is just one of these cheap plastic jugs that you can get anywhere, and I use this for when I make a liquid solution with my dyes. I've got some old tea towels, and then underneath here I've got a piece of oilcloth, just a spare bit that I had from making those sort of wipe clean tablecloths, and this will keep your work surfaces lovely and clean and dye free. And then finally, in my little pot here, I've got some brushes. So just some normal children's paint brushes, cheap as anything. You can get them in the pound shop usually. So some lovely paint brushes. And then my measuring spoon. So this is a 1/8 of a teaspoon measuring spoon. I think they're classed as like scientific measuring spoons, these ones. But this is stainless steel. I don't think I've ever had any other teaspoon. And you just wash all these things thoroughly afterwards, ready for the next time. So we've got our brushes, we've got our measuring spoon. And then finally, we're going to be looking at our yarns. So each time we dye in this series, I'm going to be dyeing the same yarns. So in my bowl here, I've already got soaking in just some water, warm water from the tap, and a scoop of my citric acid, which is about a tablespoon. I never measure amounts with citric acid, and I'm honestly not sure of the exact official requirements. I'm not even sure there are any official requirements, but all I've ever done is bunged in like a scoop. These things usually come with a scoop, and I'm guessing it's about a tablespoon. Does it say on the back? No, it doesn't. But you know, I just put in a scoop when I'm soaking my yarns, and then you'll see each time I dye a batch of yarn, I put in another scoop. So in my bowl soaking, we've got fingering weight yarn, because this is for a lovely perfect pair of socks. So we've got a fingering weight yarn. Here I've got 100 grams, just one single 100 gram skein. And then here I've got two 20 gram mini skeins. So this is an 85-15 base, and it's a 4-plied yarn. So it's nice and round and plump, it's soft and bouncy. This is the base that I've been dyeing on for quite some time now. You can get lots of other fingering weight bases. You know, the standard one is that sort of 75-25. That a lot of a lot of independent dyers use. And that's very nice. I use that a lot to knit socks. But when I'm dyeing it myself, I just prefer this base. It's a bit more kind of luxurious. It's just squishy and lovely. So 85-15 base. There's 400 meters per 100 grams. And then we've got the two 20 gram minis. So that's going to be what we're going to be dyeing on each time. So there we go. That's us all ready, and that's all of the things that we're going to use every single time we dye our yarn. Okay, so here are the dyes that we're going to be using this time. Now, just 3 colours we're going to be using, and the first one we actually used last time. It's a complete coincidence. But the first one is Galar. It's that bright pink landscape dyes, in your face, you know, brightest pink that you can find. So Galar is our first colour. We've then got, the next 2 are both jacquard. So we've got turquoise, which is number 624. And that is just how it sounds. It's just that pure turquoise sea sort of colour. And then the final colour is another jacquard, and it's sun yellow. It's number 601. And sun yellow is a really, really bright, almost neon yellow, I would say. I think if you just use this in its pure form, it would look very, you know, very quite. It would look quite neon. So sun yellow is our final colour. So just those 3. But don't be deceived, because those 3 colours are going to produce a whole rainbow of other colours. So there we go, that's everything we're going to need this time for our Storybook Lady colourway. So of course we need to get on and over to the stove and get dyeing. Okay, so here we go. Now in my pot I've got some water heating up. There's actually not very much water. There's probably only a couple of inches in there. And I've got obviously some more citric acid in there. The reason there's not much water in there is I want, when the dyes go onto the yarn, I want it to be quite nice and concentrated on the yarn and not sort of swim around in the water too much with this one. So yeah, we're going to get the yarn in now. So let's make sure I pick up the right one. Yeah. Okay, I'll shake and then into the water. And as always, I'm just going to make sure that this has got a really nice surface area on top of the water, so that we get a really good distribution of the dye. Okay, that's good. So what you want is, you know, you can see the water in there, but it doesn't want to be way above the yarn. That's quite hot now actually, so we can just go ahead. So I'm just going to pop my mask on and we'll get the first colour in. Right, so I'm going to start with the bright pink with the Galar. You've seen me use this method lots of times before, and actually it's my favourite method for dyeing variegated yarns. So what we're going to do is we're just going to sprinkle the dye over the surface, give it a little push with my spoon, and then, you know, let it be for a bit. So I'm going to start with about a flat 1/8 of the Galar. We know from last time this is a really strong colour, but in this instance we do want to use that strength of colour. So I've got about a flat 8 there, and I'm just going to sort of tap the spoon and just sprinkle it around like this in sort of ribbons going around. Maybe a bit more across there. You want it to be random. Okay. And then just go in and give that a little push so that we get nice concentrated areas, but then we do also get more sort of gently coloured pink moving out from the main bit. What I'm going to do immediately now is I'm going to drop in the next colour. So I'm going to use the turquoise next, and I'm going to do the same thing, but kind of go into the gaps that we've got there that are white, but it's inevitably going to go into the pink as well, but we want it to do that because that's going to give us purple. So let's take the turquoise and about just less than a flat 8, I would say. You want a little bit less than the pink. Let's try that. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to hit, first of all, the kind of gaps we've got there, and then, you know, go over onto the pink a bit. Okay, and now give that a little push. So what will happen there is we're going to get lots of blue, but we're also going to get some beautiful purples coming through, which is going to be wonderful, because we do want to try and get sort of every colour within this colourway. And you can see there we've got purple coming through in this area. And where it hits the deep pink, we're going to get a sort of a deep purple, and then through to lilacs where we've just got pale pink. Okay, so I'm now going to just let that set for a few minutes, maybe 5 minutes or so. And then we will move the yarn around, and I'm going to repeat that process. Okay, so that's had 5 minutes or so now, and the way that I check that we've got a decent sort of absorption and set of colour is just take your big spoon and just pop it into an area like that, and then just drop it down, and you can see the colour of the water dropping down, and that looks fairly clear. It doesn't matter if we've got a teeny bit of colour left in there, that's fine, but largely that colour's absorbed. So now we can lift it and move it, and as we lift it, this is the fun bit. Oh, look at that. Isn't it fabulous? So we've got from sort of very light turquoise here, we've got purples here, lots of the pink, lots of purple coming through, but still lots of pink and lots of blue showing, and not a lot of dye in the water at all there. But if we turn it over, you can see there's not as much here at all. So this is why we need to move it and do that process again. But what I always like to do is shift the orientation on the cable tie. And also I like to flip it over like that, so that not only have we moved it so that we're not going to get the same areas, we've turned it over so the other side of the yarn is showing. So now I'm going to just drop that back in and expose as many white areas as you can find. Okay, isn't that beautiful? It just looks so gorgeous already. I just want to make sure that I've pulled up the lighter areas. That looks pretty good. Now I'm going to repeat the process that I just did, but we're probably not going to use quite as much dye because we have already got colour on there, you know, so we're not starting from zero. Okay, so let's go in with the pink again, with the galah. And this time I'm probably going to use about 1/2 And I'm going to go in the areas where there's pink already, because then we will get pink on kind of both sides of the yarn. Doesn't matter if it goes in other areas, but I'm looking for the areas that are pink and just accentuating that pink, if you like. We might need a little spot more actually. might go into a little area there that's white, give that a bit of pink as well, and there. Because there's no rules with this really, it's your yarn. And then just a little push again, and that's giving us some pink on that side too. I'm just debating whether I want just a touch more, and I think maybe I do, because the turquoise is very strong and we don't want it to overpower the pink. You know, we want to see the pink. Do I? Yes. Just a tad more. Okay, lovely. So that's the pink. And now we're going to do the same thing with the turquoise again. I'm not going to use too much of this because we've got quite a lot of turquoise going on in there already. So let's go with about 1/4 of an eighth again. Same thing, go for the areas that you can see, I'm going to use a bit more, that you can see is already blue. There we go, that'll be perfect. Little push. And then once again, we're just going to leave this just to set nicely. And you can see we do have quite a variation in depth of colour. We've got very intense areas of colour, but then we do have softer areas where you can see here it's very pale through here, because when we put in the third colour, that's what's then going to give us another colour on top of that, and we're going to get lots of variations of shades within those colours. So yeah, I'm just going to leave that 5-10 minutes, let all that colour set, and then we can move on to the third dye colour. Okay, so that's had a nice 5 or 10 minutes now, just simmering away. So we're going to now pick it up, give it a really good move around, and then we're going to drop in the third colour. So let's just have a look. That's actually really good. There's really no dye colour at all in the pot there. So that's brilliant. And if we have a look at the yarn now, you'll see that we do have areas that are quite intense with colour, but then we also have areas that are not, that are softer. So that's just going to be beautiful. We're going to get such lovely shades and tones. It's looking so lovely already. Okay. The reason this is my favourite colour of this whole series, and also my favourite method, is because you never quite know what sort of shades you're going to get. And it's just so fun, you know, because although we're only using 3 colours, we're going to create lots more than, you know, loads more than 3 colours. So as we put it in, I'm just sort of giving it a little shufty, because that will just fully absorb any bits of dye we've got left. So at the moment, what we've got is we've got blues, we've got pinks, and we've got purples where they meet. So now we're going to add in the yellow. And what the yellow is going to do is we're going to have little patches that'll look yellow, but largely it's going to turn areas of the blue into beautiful shades of green, and areas of the pink into gorgeous sort of orangey corally colours. So we're going to get so many different colours by doing this. And this is why this is my favourite. Sort of favourite combination of colours to use those 3 kind of primary colours. Okay, so in we go with the sun yellow. Now, I'm not going to use very much. We're just going to put in little kind of ribbons of this yellow, so that it then creates little areas of those other colours. So I'm just going to go in with just maybe 1/4 of a spoon there, and just make little rivers through. You can go sort of back and forth if you want, whatever you want to do, but just do little rivers like that, and then just go back and gently push, and you'll see immediately you get different colours coming through. And where there's not a lot of dye, we will get some of the yellow showing. But really what we're using this yellow for is to create other colours. So I can see greens coming through now. And here, where it hit that bright pink, oh, that's going to be so lovely. Because that sort of corally orange is one of my favourite colours. So just have a little assess and see whether you think that's enough on that sort of side. But I think we'll possibly leave it like that, because we're going to turn it and we're going to do that again. So now we'll lift it up and have a little look. Oh, it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful, this colourway. So you can see we have got some yellow here, which is fabulous. And then here it runs in and makes this most gorgeous green. Then down here is where we got that corally colour coming through. So let's give this a little move and we'll do that again. So drop that back in. Give it a lovely move around. Okay. So I'm going to do the same thing again. So a bit of the yellow, about the same thing, quarter maybe. So here I've got some paler bits, which is going to be lovely, and some really darker bits. So again, just do some little ribbons through, and then give it a push. And then we'll see what that looks like, and whether we want any more. It's just gorgeous. I think I'm going to add just a tad more. So just a little bit more. Where do I want to add the little bit more? Maybe through there, and a little bit there. This is going to be so fabulous to knit with. I just can't wait. So that's it done. So we're now it is already simmering. So I'm just going to leave that simmering for about 10 minutes just to make sure everything is fully set. And then I will pop it outside to cool down. So there we go, that's our first and main colourway all dyed up and it's cooling down outside. So come back in part 2 when we're going to dye up the coordinating minis and then we're going to get to the knitting. So I'll see you back soon.
Wonderful start to the episode. I love that scene, but it's because of his. Is it his uncle and his, or is it his uncle and his?
No, his brother.
Yeah, that's it.
And his aunt.
That's it. That's it.
Because it's his dad's son and his grandfather's daughter, but they're really little.
It's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just hilarious trying to get your head around it.
Yeah.
And it's also a really cool film because his granddad is Clark W. Griswold's granddad from.
No, Dad, not Grandad.
Yeah. I hope I said that. If I didn't, I apologise.
You said Grandad.
His granddad is Clark W. Griswold's dad from Christmas Vacation.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And he's a good actor, actually.
Really good, yeah.
He's very funny.
Very funny.
But to be fair, is... Oh, what's the guy who plays his dad? He was in 9 to 5.
He was. I don't know what his name is.
He's another brilliant actor.
Yeah.
Because, yeah.
They're all fantastic actors, actually.
Yeah.
His friend who works in the shop with him, the manager of the shop, he's also brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah, it's well cast, really well cast. Yeah. Great colourway. What a start.
Yes.
You can see why it's your favourite.
It's fun and bright and colourful, and I'll show you it knit into the socks at the end when you've seen the whole thing.
Oh, yes. When we come back, part 2, you'll see it all, the knitting and the contrast and everything.
Yes.
Right now, though, it's time for me to say, Kate Jones, what's off your needles?
Well, I have a few things today. So the first thing is my Valenvent socks, the Love Story socks that we spoke about at the beginning. So these are finished. And these socks, I showed you these last time. But basically these are a pair of socks that include a moss stitch panel down either side of the sock. And that's my butterfly heel again, although the pattern does have a standard heel as well and umbrella toe. I've basically just combined all of my kind of favourite elements from past socks that I've knitted and created this because the love story in the title is the love story between us and knitting. So, the Love Story socks, and we will be starting those tomorrow. And you can get Valenvent.
If you want more information about these, we mentioned it before. Kate's Design Diary came out yesterday.
Yeah. So those are all finished.
Beautiful.
So the second thing is the hat that I mentioned, my folded hat. I finished the first one. So I was knitting this. I think I was just about ready for the decreases when I showed you this last time. So yeah, I've worked some gathered decreases for this one. You can see they kind of sort of spiral around. I do really like these decreases, and it just uses knit two togethers, which I, highly approve of. It's nice and simple. And it looks lovely. Shall I stick it on my head? Seeing as my hair's down today, I could probably get away with it.
Ooh, it's lovely.
Look how lovely it is.
You're keeping that one?
No, this is a gift.
Really?
But I like hats to come below my ears, and this comes just below my ears. And you can see there's I don't know if you can see the decreases there. So it's just a really lovely, cosy hat.
It's beautiful.
Oh, it's really nice. It's really nice to wear, but it's not super tight. That's what I meant about this hat. I don't know, I'd have to try this on Bryonys' head, but I feel like, because her head's a bit on the larger side, I think she would benefit from a few extra stitches. And then conversely, if I did a size which was a few less, I think that would be really cool. So yeah, there we go. That's the first folded hat all finished. And this yarn was Bird Street yarn, and the colourway is Confetti Cake. And I used sort of around 75 grams, something like that. I definitely had plenty of leftovers. So, there'd be enough to do a larger size and still get it all out of one skein, I'm sure.
Amazing.
So there's my folded hat. And then the final thing, oh my goodness.
Much excitement.
Too much excitement.
No, this is like,
so,
come on.
The final finished thing are my design socks that I was working on last time. These are all finished. And I've got a name for these now. And they're actually in testing already. They're in test knitting already. We did our pop show last Sunday, our patron-only podcast, and I got some test knitters from that. Thank you, lovely ladies. And the pattern's gone out, so these are now in testing. So you never know, this pattern might be ready for the next show. We'll just see how the testing goes. But it's this lovely textured pattern. It's so pretty. And what I thought this pattern reminded us of the most, actually, was old-fashioned sweeties. The little sort of stocking stitch section and then the two garter bits on either end looks like, and I've got some sweets here. So I've got some really, look at the bags, I've got some old-fashioned sweets, look, in brilliant paper. But look, if you look at a sweetie, it looks like this, twisted in the paper. So it's the sweetie socks. How cute is that? And we've got lots of sweets to eat, actually. We've got some mints. Oh, they look lovely. We've had some of these. They're nice, aren't they?
Yeah.
And, this is rhubarb and custard.
And that's the shape.
That's more of the shape, isn't it?
That's exactly the shape, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the sweetie socks.
And those were the sort of traditional shape. That last one you showed, most boiled sweets were that shape when we were young.
Yes, and I actually got those sweets. I was looking online for sort of traditional sweets, in little wrappers, and I found a little sweet shop in Chichester online. I think it was called the Sweet Jar, maybe. And they just came in those little bags all wrapped up, and it was just like I'd gone in the shop and which obviously that's what they must have done, just filled them from the jars. Yeah. So we haven't got any shops around where we live that are like that, so that's why I ordered them.
The closest one is Saltburn.
Yeah, which is
it's a bit of a drive.
40-minute drive, that's why I ordered those. But actually, bonus, because I got the bags too, which is lovely. So my lovely sweetie socks are now in testing.
Amazing.
I used Cascade Heritage. And I tell you what, I was playing yarn chicken. Look what I had left. This was a leftover. I had 60 grams and I thought, it'll be absolutely plenty. Well, it used 60 grams for these. And I think the reason it used a little bit more than it would normally for something fairly short is because I didn't do contrast heels and toes, and also because there are purl stitches in the pattern. Pearls tend to use a little bit more yarn than knits. So that's why I just got them out of a 60 gram. So yeah, they're in testing, very excited to get those released because I so enjoyed knitting them, and we'll see what feedback I get from my testers, but I really hope they enjoy them as well. So actually now, look what I've got. I've got two pairs already for my sock stash.
Wonderful.
And we're only nearly into February, and I've got two pairs already. Yeah. And I said to Dan, look at the colours. They're exactly the same colours as I had last year for my sock stash.
Your colours are your colours. It's fine.
I know, but I've got to vary it a little bit, I think, this year.
Look, that's it. Gorgeous. I mean, all of them, but I'm particularly excited about those Sweetie socks, but also Valentine. Can't wait for Valentine. It's going to be amazing. Yes. More about that at the end of the show. Right now, though, even more socks. Let's get back to the second part of my perfect socks.
Welcome back, everybody, to my perfect socks. So our main colour is now all done. It's time now to dye up the coordinating colour. So we're going to get to that, we're going to get it dyed up, and then excitedly it'll be time to sit down, we're going to have a chat about the socks, and then we're going to get to the knitting. Okay, so we're now ready to dye our coordinating minis. So in my pot here, I've just got a couple of inches of water in there and some more citric acid. So what I'm going to do for this colour, just having had a little think while we've been dyeing up that main skein, is I'm going to go for that kind of bright corally, pinky, orangey sort of colour. That's one of my absolute favourites. I'm going to do it in two stages. I'm going to put pink in, I'm going to drop the yarn in, and then I'm going to do the yellow afterwards. And then that way it'll be a bit more variegated, a bit more tonal doing it that way, rather than just having a solid kind of slightly orange yarn. So I'm going to take the galah first of all, and I'm going to drop in about, I don't know, what's that, a third of a spoon maybe. And let's just see how intense that is. Let me give it a mix. It might need a bit more, because it'll be fun to have a nice bright colour, won't it? Maybe a little bit more. Let's go for it, shall we? Right. Let's give that a stir, and then we can get those two minis in. Water's nice and hot. Right, so let's grab our minis. So I've got two minis as I have previously. And let's just get it into that pink first of all. Oh, it's a real Barbie pink, this. Lovely. Oh my goodness. I just love this pink. Okay, let's just give that a little move so that we get some tones going on. That's definitely bright enough, isn't it? Beautiful. So I'm just going to keep sort of moving it around like this until that pink's absorbed. And then we'll add a bit of the yellow and just see what happens. Just see if we can get a bit more of a sort of corally colour coming through. You can see the pink has virtually gone already. So to do this, all I'm going to do is just get a little bit of that yellow on the tip of my spoon. I'll lift up the yarn, drop the yellow in, give it a mix around, and then drop the yarn back in, rather than, you know, having to take the yarn out and all of that. So just a little bit of the yellow, not too much. I think that'll be about right. Let's see. So I'm just going to lift up the pink, drop in the yellow, give that a little mix around. We may need to add a bit more, but let's just see, shall we? And then just drop it in quite slowly so that I get a nice tonal sort of yellow running through. Let's just have a look. It's definitely changed it. Oh, it's such a lovely colour, my goodness. I think I'm going to add a little bit more. It doesn't need much of the yellow actually to change it into what we want. So I've just added a teeny bit more. You can see the water's just mildly yellow. And then back in and move the yarn around as we drop it in. That looks good. Oh my gosh, this is going to be such a pretty sock set, isn't it? That looks good to me. So I'm just going to raise the temperature a little bit and just bring that to simmering point, and then just let that have a little cook away for 5 or 10 minutes, and then I can pop it outside to cool down with our main colour. So that's our yarn all dry and ready to be knitted. So it's time now to get it skeined up and get that yarn on our needles. Okay, so here we go. Our beautiful yarn is all dry and just looking fantastic. You know, there's so many colours in it. We've literally got every colour of the rainbow in the yarn. It's just absolutely gorgeous. And this colour has come out just fantastically. This shade is actually one of Bryonys' all-time favourite colours. I mean, I'm not even sure what colour I would call this. I guess it is like a coral, isn't it? Coral pink. And I've actually dyed shades like this many times over the years. And quite often I've not written it down what I've done, and then I've like gone back and wanted to recreate the same colour and not managed it. But I think this is pretty close to the sort of colour that I remember in my head as being one of Bryony's favourites. So I know she's going to love this one. And just such bright, fun colours this time. So we're going to wind now our main colour, and we're going to get knitting it, I should say, into our sock. So I've already snipped off all of the ties apart from just one. So I'm going to get this onto the winder and then hope for the best again with the winder. I was just looking actually to see what the colour was like inside the skein and outside the skein, and we've got a really good coverage. You know, it's equally as saturated on the inside as the outside. And that's why when I was dyeing it, I kind of flipped it over, if you remember. So yeah, I'm going to get this now. Let's orientate it right. Get it onto my ball winder and get it wound up. Oh, look at that green there. Oh, gorgeous. Right, let's get winding. Okay, that went okay. So let's just take it off. Gosh, I mean, it was sort of mesmerising watching it wind. You know, I kept looking over at the Swift because the speed of it and the colours all merging, it was a bit like, what's that thing called at the fairground where it spins around and you stand by the side of it? Do you know what I mean? Where it spins around and you're seeing all the colours blurred. It was just amazing. And it just looks fantastic wound up. Such a beautiful colourway and so fun, and I can't wait to knit this into our socks. So of course that's what we need to do now. I need to get set up and we need to get knitting. Okay, so here we go. I've got my 2 socks completed with that last colour, and I'm ready to add in the new one here. Look at the colours, and I've just pulled off a little bit to start knitting, and you just get all of those colours. It's so pretty. What I've got here actually, just to show you before I start knitting, is I've pulled out the pair of socks that I knit last year that are actually the inspiration, if you like, for the socks I'm knitting now, because I'm knitting exactly these socks here. You might remember me knitting these. I made them last year sometime, and yeah, they're just a scrappy pair of socks, but this is exactly what I'm going to copy with the socks I'm knitting now. And funnily, it's got that colour. Do you see this orangey corally colour here? This is a mini that I dyed. And if we pull in the mini, you can see this has faded a bit. These look worse for wear because I've worn these to oblivion. So that I'm very much ready for a new pair. But you can see that this colour that I've just dyed is really similar to this one. So I'm really pleased with this one. But yeah, this is what I'm after. So you can see how it's going to look effectively. I used the same yarns with these ones though, and just switched the order with each sock, but that's what I'm going to be doing. So we're knitting this stripe here, the third one, 1, 2, 3, this one is what I'm going to be doing today. And I've actually also, in my project bag, I'd put in the 2 previous minis that we dyed. So now look, we've got a third, and I think they're looking so lovely together. It's not intentional that these would look really nice in sequence, but so far they really do. So that's lovely. So of course now we need to start knitting, so I'll just bring in one of the socks, and all I'm going to do is knit 9 rounds with my new lovely yarn. And I know when I knit the last section, it seemed to take me like a nanosecond to knit both socks because I think I was just so excited. And that's the cool thing about this process, because we're using a different yarn each time. It's just so exciting. You know, you pick up your knitting, you're not bored at all. You just really want to knit the next colour. So I'm just going to start knitting. So I'm just pulling out my back needle, grabbing my yarn, leaving a tail to weave in. And then I'm just going to start knitting, and I'm knitting 9 rounds. If you know, if this is the first sort of episode of these that you're watching, you might want to go back and watch the others, because last time I showed you a sort of breakdown of how I came up with the 9 rounds and how you deal with all the maths involved in creating your own sort of perfect socks. So go back and watch that if you haven't already. But yeah, I'm just going to knit 9 rounds on each of my socks. And then next time we're going to be doing the heel, which is very exciting, isn't it? Oh, and look at the colours we've got going already. I just hit that really intense blue, and now we've got like a pinky purple coming up. So fun, this colour. So yeah, I am now, look, I've reached the end of that needle already, just chatting away. So I'm going to carry on knitting now and complete my sections. So there we go, I am off and running, knitting that beautiful Storybook lady colour into my sock, and I can't wait to see what this knits up like. Oh my gosh, when you just, you look at it on the needles here, it literally is an absolute rainbow of colour. We've got, pinks, we've got purpley pinks, we've got light blue, we've got turquoise, we've got a darker purple, there's a pale peach, we've got gold, we've got different shades of green. Oh my goodness. It's absolute, just, it makes me think of when I just said about the thing whirling around at the fairground, Dan told me afterwards, he said, it's a tilt-a-whirl, I think. So, if you wanted to rename this colourway, I think that would be a really good name for it. It's just an absolute rainbow and a riot of colour. It's fantastic. Have I gone on about this colour enough? I think I possibly have. So, whatever you're doing, whether you're dyeing with me or whether you're just going to your stash, choosing a yarn, or if you're just watching and following me along, thank you to everybody. So if you, just quickly to say, if you are going into your stash and you're looking for a yarn that might, work well, you're just looking for something that's full of colour, basically. Just go and find the most colourful skein you can find in your stash and you won't go far wrong. So thank you everybody for watching this time, and I'm very excited to be back next time because we're going to be starting on the heel. But for now, thank you all so much, and I will see you next time for more of My Perfect Socks.
What a wonderful episode, and the socks are right here.
They're right here.
All knitted on and everything.
I know, so here's the beautiful yarn.
It's so colourful.
Just have another little look at it.
Love it.
Oh, isn't it pretty?
Spectacular.
And I've knit the sections into the socks. I do have two. It's difficult to show, when there's not a lot of fabric really under the needles, but here we go. So here's the two sections.
Gotta love Magic Loop.
I'm going to just show you one. Because it's just impossible.
It's all loop and no socks.
I know. It's so pretty. Look how pretty it is. And I've absolutely got to knit a full pair of socks in this colour. Can you imagine? Just lovely. And here's the mini. I've got another one because there was two, wasn't there? But so it's that orangey, mandarin, tangerine sort of colour. And this is the three that I've done so far. I think they look absolutely lovely together. That wasn't my intention, but I think they just look really nice.
It makes sense that they would go together, though, I suppose, because it's a similar theme, and you're pulling out of, socks that you've just dyed to go in. So I suppose, and even if you've done the right job, I suppose it's going to end up.
Yeah, even if when I've got all 12, they don't look particularly good together, I can group them off, can't I, in groups of three, and because they look lovely.
I bet you, though, they all look great together.
We'll see. I bet I'll be able to put them in some sort of sequence where they look nice. Yes. Yeah.
So Kay is back with one more episode of My Perfect Socks. Next time, before then, we start alternating between My Perfect Socks and Britain, the Stately Era.
Yeah.
Right now, though, it's time for the Endy Bits.
Endy Bits.
So we mentioned our radio show that came back last week with an episode all about radio times, actually, and TV and all of that type of things. So that was really fun. It's back again next week, and we're talking about the books that we're looking forward to reading in 2025.
Yes.
So that's going to be cool.
Some corkers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, the Love Story socks Kay's shown you, Design Diary already came out, but those socks launch and they're free to silver, gold and platinum Bakery Bear patrons, and they come out tomorrow on the 1st of February. There'll be a Patreon update with the first video in the Valenbent 2025 series, and the socks will be attached to that post. And then there'll be further videos on the 4th, on the 11th and the 13th with Kay. So it's a 4-part video series to accompany those wonderful socks. And then, as I mentioned before as well, Jen's got some Valenbent content coming later in the month as well. And
fun.
You have got some yarn.
Oh, guess what I did? Oh my gosh, I don't regret it, okay? No judgment, I know there's no judgment. So, Giddy Yarns did an update recently when it was Winnie the Pooh Day. It was Winnie the Pooh Day. It was something like the birthday of A.A. Milne or the birthday of his son, or I can't remember the exact reason why it was Winnie the Pooh Day. And she did this update and she got all of these Winnie the Pooh colourways, and she got like full skeins and mini skein sets. I thought, oh, I'll get one of the mini skein sets because there's 4 different mini skein sets. Well, of course, I had to get all 4 of the sets because, look, we're a very Winnie the Pooh loving family. Let's say, you know, Pooh Bear has played a huge part in Bryonys' childhood. You know, he's always been there. And we just love Pooh Bear and all of his friends. So I thought, oh, do you know what? Just get them, because if you don't, you'll regret it. So I've got all of them. So she did 4 sets. So this one has got 5 colourways, and this one is Winnie the Pooh minis. So there's Pooh Bear, look, and there's Piglet, and that's Eeyore, I'm sure, and I'm not sure what the references are for the others. I think she did put on the post on Instagram, and I'm sure on the listing it said all of them. I don't know whether all of these have sold out or if she's got them now on pre-order. I'm not sure. You'd have to go and have a look. So I've got this one with 5 in. We've then got, I know these ones. So we've got Tigger, How Sweet to Be a Cloud, and Catching Woozles. So they're beautiful. We've then got Owl, Heffalump, and 100 Acre Wood. And then the final one is Pooh Sticks, Christopher Robin, and Tigger's Don't Climb Trees. Now the Pooh Sticks one, which is this one because I recognised it, I knitted a pair of socks for Bryony, I think it was last year, in this colourway. I had a full skein. So there we go. And I'm going to use these all together. There's 14 all together. Oh, and I'm definitely going to use these in one project. I don't know what that project's going to be yet.
Exciting.
But it's exciting, isn't it? 14 mini skeins, just thinking what I can do with them. And I'm going to arrange them all in a sequence so that it all looks beautiful when it follows on.
Wonderful.
I don't know, a cowl maybe. There's too many though for a cowl. I'm thinking about it. But yeah.
Gorgeous. What a wonderful way to finish. And so much to look forward to over the next 2 weeks.
Yes.
Because, yes, whilst, it seems like 2 minutes ago that it was Bakery Bear's Advent Calendar season, the 2 minutes have passed.
I know.
And now it's Valenvent season.
Valenvent.
And then fear not, because when Valenvent finishes, that'll be time for the launch of the first platinum pattern of 2025. Oh, yes. It's all too much. All too exciting.
There's always something exciting going on.
So we're going for a lie down.
Yes.
And we'll see you next time with more. Bye.
See you soon. Bye.
Who's it sitting and knitting? It's Dan and Kay, the bakery bears. Enthusiasm's not quitting for Dan and Kay, the bakery bears. They'll take you to fabulous places of which their favorites they'll share. You better buy a pattern, get yourself a bakery bear. You'll find yourself in a castle while watching the bakery bears. It never feels like a hassle to sit and watch the bakery bears. What's on your shelf or what's in your